My guest is Honorable Obi Amoah, who is Member of Parliament for Kwapem South and also Deputy Minister for Local Government and Rural Development. Okay, so Honorable Obi Amoah, let's look at, we are looking at having the referendum in September 2019. So we're looking at having political party participations. What it means is that even with the MMDCs, it will be elected on political party lines. Political parties can present candidates.
Yes.
And then the assembly members to political parties can present candidates.
Eventually, because if you amend Article 55.3, the provision 55.3 says that political parties can do all these things and sponsor candidates for elections other than let's say assembly elections and local government units. So if you remove the other than, that means that you've opened the local governance system to political party participation. And whether we like it or not, there are positive signs, there are positive aspects of allowing parties to also be involved. If you look at the summary of the Constitutional Review Commission report, it talks about to deepen decentralization because political parties presidential candidates would be directly accountable to the people.
But there's a fear that those who are not in favor, they argue that the reason was to attract the best people, because many people fear that political party involvements will lead to the usual, and they say politics is dirty. They don't want to get involved there. So why don't we leave it as it is? Well, maybe we can elect MMDCs, but for the assembly members, we let it be like that.
Politics is dirty, but assembly members, they are doing politics. Whether they like it or not, they are doing politics. The only thing is that political parties are not openly involved. But they are doing politics. As to whether it's partisan or non-partisan, it's politics. So if politics is dirty, they are already in the gutter. That if the politics is dirty.
So in that case, if we start to have political parties involved, would we still maintain the government appointees?
That is, in fact, what we have done is to have the pre-referendum activities, like what we're doing now. The bill, sensitization, all those things, canvassing. Then we get to the referendum. If whatever the outcome of the referendum, then there's the post-referendum activities. Post-referendum activities will look at several laws, how to amend some of these laws to be in tandem with what the people have agreed based on the referendum, that is amending Article 55.3. So we would, post-referendum, we would have to decide, do we amend Article 242, which talks about composition of the assembly? If we amend, then the composition, it will mean that the 30%, we should look at it again. How do we get the 30% in? Is it by the president just appointing these 30%, or certain interest groups defined, like people with disability, gender balance, those things, traditional authorities? How do we get that definition so that even if it's 30%, it's not just by the president nominating people and then that is the end of it. So that was a post-referendum activity. Now, for instance, chief executives are heads of security. DISEC, MISEC, RESEC. Chief executives are heads of security agencies. Now, the Security and Intelligence Act, do we amend it so that chief executive doesn't become the automatic head of security because of the implications at the national level? You understand? So there are several laws we need to amend after the referendum. That's the post-referendum aspect of it. That is why we have also packaged it in a way that almost all the chief executives, or majority of them, were appointed in 2017. And the Constitution says it's for 4 years.
Yeah.
All things be equal. But the president can decide to change you any day, because your security of tenure is at the mercy of the president.
Yeah.
But when you are elected, at least you know that you are going for 4 years. Now we are saying that by 2021, all things being equal, the majority would have ended their first term cycle. So by that time, you should go for elections if the people of Ghana agree. So referendum 2019, we still have a lot of work to do. By people said, why not 2020? But the Constitution even doesn't allow it. It says assembly elections and general elections should be at least 6 months apart. Article 246. So if by June 2020 we haven't finished all these amendments, that means you can't do the elections in 2020.
Do you have the support of your party?
Well, we still need a lot of discussion and assurances. Discussion and assurances in the sense that if you say blanket, DCs should be elected on political party basis, every party, especially the strong parties, want to know more. They want to know more in the sense that there are strong hosts and weak hosts. We went to Volta region. The DCs said, they endorse it, they support it. But on their quiet, privately, they said, hey, it means that if we go and stand, most of us will not make it here. It means that you are pushing us out. Mm-hmm. So they became a bit worried and apprehensive. In the same way, we went to Ashanti region. NDC, we like it. On the quiet, they will say that all the fight we are fighting here, if our party wins, it means we cannot have any KMA or any MC or DC in Ashanti region because you people will capture everything.
Okay.
You understand?
So in effect, there are some DCs now, particularly in areas where
MPP is not too strong.
MPP is not too strong.
Who think that if we do direct elections on political party basis, they will lose their positions. Mm-hmm. It will go to our opponents. Just the same way that NDC knows that if they should come to power, there's not every area that they can appoint a DC because MPP will obviously capture those areas. So the parties have their strongholds. And because of that, those on the ground want certain assurance, certain package that you've put together that will let them know that it's not only by getting a DC that you are also involved in governance and that there are other situations that you can also be involved in governance. Because, for instance, in the Volta region, people think that if they even stand as candidates and they don't make it, they may be considered for DC, chief executive. Yes. Now, if you are going to also open that up for people to be elected, that means parliamentary candidate, he will not make it. DC too, he may not make it because the party is weak there. But the president has power to make appointments. The president's appointment cannot only be for a DC. Here we are even discussing who should be head of intelligence and security. Yeah. If we amend the law for the president to have that power, direct that this is the person I'm appointing to be in charge of this, or even for discussion purposes, if the president has power to appoint a district administrative officer who is different from the DC and the functions spelled out, it means that your government will be in power. You will not be DC, but you may be appointed to certain critical positions that you also help in the development of the place. So, in effect,
those concerns will be catered for.
In effect, we need to sit down and cater for those concerns so that even though we are talking about all inclusive, people too would not feel that they've been left out because they fought for their party, they did this, and that the party is in power, but because they come from a weak hood, so to say, they don't have any hope. Because we like it or not, in practical terms, the average party person, my party has come to power. So if I go to Hohoi, the person in charge of the whole assembly was appointed by my president. So I should be able to go to him in the office or at home. But if it's elections and the person, where do I go?
So I'll be right if I say that there are some members of the NPP who are not in favor of the election.
It's because we haven't really explained it very well. And that's what I would say. On the face of it, what the person will say is that, hey, if there's election today, we will not make it. So then why am I fighting for the party? But what I'm saying is that there are other structures we can be put in place to cater for some of these apprehensions.
Because John Boyd said it at the time that some of his party members believe that, if they fight for the party, like you were saying, to come into office, there's a likelihood of being made, MMDC, but now they feel that it's been taken away from them. But you say there are other positions that they could be appointed to.
Yes. Okay. And those are some of the concerns. In fact, there are those who don't want political parties at the local level. But some of us think that it's an old excuse and strategy. Old excuse and strategy in the sense that some of us who are old enough saw Unigov, where the military government wanted to perpetuate itself in power and said that political parties are evil. Political parties are not good for the nation, so we should go for Unigov. At the end of the day, we fought against it, and they even rigged it. But Champon and his people ended up somewhere. Come PNDC era. Beginning of PNDC, hand over to whom? Nunu Mensah said it. Hand over to whom? We don't need political parties. But we also agitated, fought for it, showed the merits of political parties. And since 1992, it's political parties who are running this country, like in several other places. So at the local level, the same argument will come. Why are you bringing political parties to the local level? Why are you bringing political parties to let DCs to be chaotic? They will do this, they will do that, just to bring all the negative things about political parties being governance. Okay. But the positive things outweigh the negative things.
Okay.
And in any case,
finally on
this thing that we want to do is not only in Ghana. There are several countries in Africa who have gone ahead of us, even though they came to learn decentralization from us, have gone ahead of us and elect their DCs, even on partisan basis. As for Europe and Americans, is given. Yeah. It's taken for granted that Labour, the mayor of London, is Labour. But the government in place is conservative. And they coexist and they run their country.
Okay. But talking about MMDCs, the coalition of, progressive asylum, they say you've not paid them. MMDCs have not been paid. And, so how do we expect them to survive when we have not been paid?
Well, I heard that. I was a bit surprised. Even some radio stations started calling me to interview me. And I was scandalized, more or less. That are you saying that people who have been appointed since 2017 have not been paid and they've gone through all the process? I was surprised. I said, how is that possible? The person has had his appointment letter. The person has responded to the appointment letter. He's gone through all the processes, biometric and everything. And now everything has been captured by a controller. Now saying that he's not been paid. So I wanted to be sure, even though I knew that it's not possible. I started speaking to the DCs. He said, don't mind them, it's not true.
Really? But I spoke to one DC who said he has not been paid. He was appointed in 2017, the DC for Ga West, that's Clement Wilkinson, you know him?
He said he's not been paid. And what's the reason for
He said he's not been paid. He said, well, he had... he was going through the process. There was a challenge somewhere, but as we speak, since he was appointed in 2017, he's not been paid.
He said there was a challenge somewhere. What was the challenge?
He said during the verification, there was a challenge with his verification.
Yes.
So, but he's
the
not
controller,
been
paid. That's why I'm saying all things being equal. The DC, as an employee of government, you are not different from anybody. Ministers go through it, deputy ministers go through it, chief executives go through it. So if there's a hitch with the process that you have to go through, until you overcome that hitch, you should have this kind of challenge. But now that you've even mentioned that, I will find out from the controller myself why that particular person has not been paid. Whose fault is it? Is it his fault? And why has it not been rectified all this time? But the general, almost all of them that I've spoken to, they haven't brought up this problem. The new ones, those newly appointed, there are two places where we haven't even had the endorsement. That is Crowell and Chebi. Chebi, the nominee, has not been named yet. Crowell, they've gone to elections twice. He didn't get a two test. So we don't have those places. But those who have even been endorsed, it's early days yet. They need the appointment letter. They have to do the verification. They have to show controller all the things that he needs. Booklet, more or less. Fill that booklet and let controller be satisfied so that you can also be paid.
And how long would all of this take?
All things being equal, now everything is fast tracked. If you do it fast enough, your name will go on the payroll. 1 month, 2 months, maximum 3 months. You get some back pay and you are okay. But if it delays, that means there's a problem which has to be addressed.
Yeah, because I remember speaking to some of the MMDCs and they said it took them 6 months before they got their salary.
Some of them don't even know what they need to do to get their salary. You guess the appointment, respond to the appointment, it takes them months.
Really? A DC,
Yes.
MC,
Yes.
he doesn't know what to do before he gets his salary.
Don't know about that. Maybe they take this for granted. Oh, once I've been appointed and endorsed, I've been sworn in, then my money should start coming. But if you don't follow the process, the minister would have to write that if you are appointed based on the results that the EC will bring from the assembly. And once the minister writes to you, you have to respond. And then you have to also fill the form that controller provides. If you keep the form in your office, today, tomorrow, the payroll gets to a certain point when they have to pay you. It crosses the date, they think of next month. If you don't fulfill it, it crosses the date, they think of next month. Before you are well, you are helping in delaying the whole process. And then the question will be, how are you surviving there?
Exactly the point. So those persons, how does the ministry ensure that they are not surviving on the assembly?
Well, anybody who decides to, the other time I gave an example, or I used a term, in those military days, they had the forces sergeant major. I remember him very well, warrant officer from Paul. Anytime there was a deba with Flight Lieutenant Rollins and all those people in charge, he would say that if you ask a good question, you ask for all of us. If you ask a bad, stupid question, you ask for yourself. Any chief executive who says that I've not been paid, so I want to do what I want, the law will catch up with you. I mean, auditors will come and the books will show that you've done the wrong thing. You appear before Public Accounts Committee. The infractions, if you are serious enough, you end up facing the law.
Surprisingly, I mean, I spoke to Honorable Asma, MC for Takwaz Swayim, and he talked about the fact that if he's going, for instance, for a funeral, if he's going for any program in the name of the assembly, whichever contribution or donation he makes must be paid for by the assembly.
It depends on how you're able to justify it. Because the auditors are on you.
Yeah, but should that be the way to go?
No, I don't know how you're going to justify that. That if you say that a prominent person in the community is bereaved, be it a chief or a reverend minister or a headmaster, prominent people in the society, the assembly is also donating. We can justify it. Oh, this is 500 as our contribution towards the funeral. Any auditor will see it as reasonable. But that doesn't mean any Tom, Dick, and Harry who loses his life in the constituency, you should go and take assembly's money. You end up spending all the assembly's money on funerals. And you will not be able to justify it. Even if auditors clear you, the assembly members will think that you are not using their money well. Some may have to come from your own pocket, because whether you like it or not, you are a politician. And some may have to come from your own pocket. I don't go and donate at funerals and send a receipt to the assembly that refund it for me, even through my common fund. I've never done that. If I have to go for a funeral weekend, I have to look for money to go and donate. And they will say it in my name.
Talking about common fund, finally on this before we activate the phone lines, do we still need MP's share of the common fund?
Well, that is a misnomer. It's normal in the sense that they say MP share of common fund, as if the money comes to you and then you put it in your pocket and say, this is my share.
You're a lawmaker.
It's not my share.
You're a lawmaker.
There's a formula for common fund.
Yes.
And somehow the pioneers managed to engineer that situation where a certain amount is set aside for the projects that you would recommend for those projects to be funded from that kind of money. So it doesn't come to your pocket.
Exactly, but do we need
paid
that?
To the. Well, I don't have a problem with it. And if it's scrapped, it will not be doomsday. In the sense that I've gone to a community, they need roofing sheets. I said, oh, instead of me waiting for my own money, which I may be cash strapped, to provide roofing sheets, I write to the assembly that I know that a certain amount has been deposited in the MP's name, is in the MP's account. Can you procure roofing sheets for this school? That is the end of my work. I don't go and take the money and put it in my pocket. The law even doesn't allow it.
Yeah, but
sometimes it will surprise you that for about 3 consecutive years, every time there's a match, the assembly takes the money from the MP's common fund account.
Without your consent?
With my consent. And it's replaced. But here we are.
Oh, so the assembly is borrowing from your common fund?
Borrows from my common fund. So it's not my personal money, but we use it for the community. And then said, more or less, I think the idea was the MP should also have a say.
Yeah, but there are those who argue that most of the time you spend these things on.
Some are misused.
Some are misused. And I remember.
It's not a perfect world, and then the auditors will catch up with you. For instance, if you say go and do this, use the money for this, but before the money even gets there, you have gone to procure without going through the rules. Some are misused, and the auditors frown on it, and they always put it in their report.
Okay, because I remember years ago, the then MC for Sekanita Craddock, Captain retired Anthony Kujo, had a concern, and I remember speaking to Kobna Dakomensa, who said, Captain Kujo said he was happy Kobna Dakomensa was using his to construct a library, and he was unhappy with how some of the members of parliament within the metropolis used it just to pay school fees. And he felt that, that wasn't helping.
Yeah, but my policy has been that as much as possible, I wish I could use that kind of fund for infrastructure. Because if you allow yourself, you spend it on individuals, and sometimes people may not even appreciate it. You say, "How did you use your common fund?" "Oh, I use it to pay school fees or health insurance and those things." But I wish I could put up a school or something, accumulate the money and put up a structure, and then the whole community will know that this is what has come
exactly.
out of it.
Rest will actually the phone lines, but on the issue of the DCs who've not been paid, I mean, you see many of the people you spoke with said they had been paid.
Yes.
How many of them said they had not been paid?
Well, you've mentioned Wilkinson.
Wilkinson, yes. I spoke with him. He said he had not been paid.
In fact, when I spoke on radio, I said that I doubt that is the situation. We have a platform. DCs, the Chief Executive's platform. A lot of them sent in that, as far as we are concerned, we've been paid. Some even said that I'm a dean for this region. I've checked in the region, everybody has been paid except the newly appointed ones. But it's recurring. You're now putting it to me, and I don't even have the list of those who have not been paid. What I need then to do is go to controller now.
Okay.
Controller, get me the list and tell me why it hasn't happened, so that I can then give you concrete response, so that it not be speculation. Because yes.